What do you think? Wonderful. So let's get the filmmakers here. Please welcome Taika Waititi and Carthew Neal.
I'm counting. Is this the longest one in the day? That's definitely the longest. All right, that's done.
You deserve it. You deserve all the awards
Thank you.
which you're nominated for. So we do a little Q&A, and I have some friends who normally tell me, well, you know, you should not make fun about Nazis. Nazis are horrible, they are not funny. Why do you think different?
Who's your friends?
They're not my friends anymore.
No, I don't agree with that. I think they're ridiculous and you've got to make fun of them. I think you have to, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to make fun of them. Yeah. I think more some of the questions come about from using humour with something like this, but to my mind, comedy is one of the most powerful weapons against bullying and against arseholes and against dictators and intolerance and hate. And so, yeah, thanks. Yeah, there's a really cool story about Groucho Marx. Hands up who know who Groucho Marx is. Holy shit, only like 5 people. Anyway, one of the great satirists and comics of Hollywood, and his daughter in the 1930s tried to go to a birthday party at a country club in Beverly Hills, and she wasn't allowed in the swimming pool because she was Jewish, and this is 1930s in Hollywood. And her father, Groucho Marx, is one of the all-time great American comedians. Instead of replying or reacting with anger, he wrote a letter to the country club, and he said, to be fair, she's only half Jewish, so would you consider letting her into the swimming pool up to her knees? And so when you use humour to pinpoint the okay.
Time's up. Okay.
This is what I remember about the cinema. These curtains, the sparkly curtains of this place is what I've come to love over the years. And finally, there they are. But anyway, yeah. Why are you clapping for the curtains? Just hear it for the curtains. Right. But yeah, no, so for me, comedy is a great way of disarming the audience, making them relax, and opening up to a deeper message.
Carthew, do you remember the day when Taika maybe called you and said, I have a great idea, I have a story about Hitler, and then most producers say, okay, stop you right there, there's no story. So.
Yeah, I'm interested in this, Carthew. I want to know about, both of us really want to know about this.
I don't remember you calling me.
I think you do.
Ring, ring. Oh yeah, that's right. This script has been around for a long time. Taika's been talking about this project for a long time.
and we were working on a TV series in New Zealand when I first heard about it. And when I read the script, I mean, when I first heard about the script, I think I'd already made Hunt for the Water People with Taika, and you know, he has a very unique voice, and he has the ability to oscillate between comedy and heartfeltness and emotion and pathos, you know, backwards and forwards in a way that I don't know if anyone else in the world is able to do it in the same way that he does. And so
nobody in the world has ever done. Keep going. I'm enjoying this.
And then I thought, and then I read the script, and the script was amazing, and it was very similar to the movie you see now. Taika had this beautiful script that he started with, and then from there he's very playful in the shooting of the film with the actors. They feel like it's a very relaxed, loose environment, but in actual fact he's collecting a lot of different material that he can then rework in the edit and recreate the emotion and the humour in the movie that he had in the script. And so I had utmost confidence in him, but I think that's because I knew him and I knew his work. I think that's not the case for, you know, when you just hear about this script, and it was hard to pitch it, wasn't it, Taika?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Carthew. Yes, it's a hard film to pitch to anyone.
I was the only one who said, maybe I'll help.
Yeah. You can't start the pitch with, well, picture this. This is a little boy in the Hitler Youth. I mean, in Hollywood, that's going to kill the conversation instantly. So I decided to not pitch it and decided to write a script that would speak to the film, and the script was the pitch. Interesting story, right?
Yeah. Did you have an imaginary friend when you were young, or is it still here?
I didn't have any imaginary friends because I was really popular, and well, no, look, it's not arrogance, but just being incredibly good looking. I mean, look at me. It's just, as a child, I mean, all through my life, people were drawn to me, so it was just very hard to have time for an imaginary friend. I wanted one, but I had to get rid of like a human friend to have an imaginary friend, but you know, it was a difficult childhood for me. I did want an imaginary. If I had an imaginary friend, I think it would just be another version of me. Just another Taika, exactly the same, who agreed with everything I thought, and you know, just dressed like me, looked like me, wanted to do things that I wanted to do. And then I imagined that if that imaginary friend had an imaginary friend, there would be another version of me as well. And so it would just keep going on. So it's lucky I didn't have an imaginary friend, because, you know, there would be like 400 of them right now. So, yeah.
Still counting. There's only one, Taika. So, how did you actually feel on set, dressed as Hitler, and then directing?
Well, growing up in New Zealand as an Indigenous child, a little brown native Maori boy, had the same dream as every other Polynesian boy growing up, and that was to play the coveted role that had eluded so many actors before, and that was there was no. I mean, I hated it. It was embarrassing. The most embarrassing thing is trying to direct people dressed like that. It's, you know, you end up telling actors, "I'd like you to come in through the door and do the scene like this." It's not an order. Okay? Not forcing you to do it. It's a very difficult thing. But so in between scenes, I would take the moustache off and put a hat on, take off the jacket, and try and be. I like that laugh. I like it. Where is it? There you are. Yes.
There was actually one day where things did go a bit wrong, though. on set, wasn't
We
it? Like,
want to talk about it.
Oh yeah, we want to talk about it. Carthew wants to talk about it.
I had a meltdown and I was yelling at the crew. I had a little tantrum, and but I was dressed like that guy, and so I was yelling at everyone.
it was the scene by the river where Scarlett Rosie is talking about love, what the meaning of love is to JoJo, and Taika's idea for the day was that Adolf would come cycling behind them in the background, exactly at the time that the camera panned down from the sky, and he'd fall off his bike. And the camera team on the other side of the river were panning, and Taika was cueing, because obviously it's really hard to be directing and acting in your movie. And so he was, cueing, didn't work, go again, cueing didn't work, and then he was really getting more and more fiery. And then we saw him stomping in full regalia across the bridge, coming for us, and it was not a good sight.
It is difficult, guys. Right? It's very difficult to act and direct, especially when you're playing someone like this. I think there are the three most difficult jobs in the world: diamond mining, and being a child soldier, and being in the entertainment industry. Those are the three most difficult jobs in the world.
Speaking of that, you are two wonderful filmmakers from New Zealand, from the other side of the world. Why did you came up to make a story about Hitler and Germany? And why now?
And why not? Keep got anything else? Well, honestly, no idea. No idea. Why did I do this?
Well, your mum was talking to you once.
This guy doesn't care. He wants to leave. I feel, and another one.
He's bringing it back.
It's going to get better.
He's bringing it back.
This was based on a book, very loosely. And my mother was reading this book. She said, "You got to read this book about this kid who finds this girl in his attic in the wall." But the book is not very funny, and there's no imaginary friend in the book and all this stuff. But it was just something that really touched me, and I've always been really fascinated with this part of history, and I wanted to do some sort of film like that. I mean, I didn't want to just only do New Zealand films.
Someone faint?
Strange noises.
So today is, I think I've heard it's your last day of this JoJo journey, the last screening.
What?
I've heard that it's the last screening and the last.
One of the last.
It's the last screening
Oh, you lied
tonight.
to me. It's a one today. Okay.
It's the last screening tonight.
It's the last screening tonight. Okay. What did you learn in the journey? Did you learn something? Did you bring something home from all this JoJo Rabbit journey?
Yes. No, I learnt some very profound lessons, big life lessons. But those are the kind of things that are personal to me that I don't like to share. So I keep that stuff to myself, I think. What did you learn?
Well, one of the most satisfying things that's been happening as we've shown the movie to different people, and we've seen online people responding to it, is hearing people talk about how they're coming to see it with their families and how they're coming to see it with their kids or their grandparents, and it's starting a discussion. And I think that, we made we were trying to make an entertaining movie, but also it was a comedy, but also something that actually people understood and there was meaning to it, and those laughs were not for free. And I think seeing people respond and starting to talk about the film and about hate and about prejudice and about how to think for yourself, that's super, super satisfying. So we're just excited that, for more people to see the film around the world and hopefully take that message away.
Yeah, and I think, obviously the film is a very contemporary feel. the dialogue is contemporary, the music is contemporary. I know that no one spoke like that back then, but it was very important to us to make a film that would be relevant to younger audiences today, because I don't know if you're aware, but in other places in the world, this sort of shit's starting to go down. And it's important to kind of keep this conversation going, and humans by nature are cursed to keep repeating the same mistakes. And it's, what is it, 80 years, it's like almost 80 years since Chaplin did The Great Dictator. So it's 75 years since the end of the war, and we're now, fuck it, let's just name countries. In America, there's a very big danger of this sort of shit going down again, because people kind of forget what's happened, and they sort of, at the end of the war, there's a very, very clear rule. If you're a Nazi, you went to jail. Now, in certain places in the world, if you're a Nazi and you want to, expand on those ideas and put them out in the world, you can very freely go down to the town square and have people come down and join you, and you can have your own rally, and that's called freedom of speech. So, which is really fucked up. And so I think, unless we keep talking about it and reminding people of what happens when you can get a group mentality and convince masses of people of a certain thing, we're in danger of repeating the same mistakes. So for us, it was very important to tell a story like this in this kind of way to remind people to start thinking for themselves.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for reminding us. Thank you for this masterpiece. I hope it wins all the awards for animation. JoJo Rabbit is starting tomorrow, and I hope to see you outside, and you're all welcome for our reception. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.